Is the NBA losing its grip on American sports? Believe it or not, it's been a question posed for decades now. On June 20th, 1994, Sports Illustrated put out an article with the title, "Why the NHL's Hot and the NBA's Not." Hockey was being talked about as hip, sexy, cutting edge, while basketball was believed to be cooling off after record growth through the 80s and early 90s. Fast forward to today, and it seems like the discourse has entered a similar narrative. Criticism for the state of the NBA seems to be at an all-time high, while the NHL seems to have captured the hearts and imaginations of the entire country. The question is, could hockey actually threaten to rewrite the pecking order for professional sports in America? Or is this just the latest trend doomed to fall back into obscurity?
At the Jordan Foundation dinner, Michael again brought the subject up and said that he was considering not playing.
Everyone knows exactly what the circumstances are right now in terms of my decision not to play the game of basketball. When I lose the sense of motivation and the sense of to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
Back in 1994, the NBA found itself in a precarious situation. The league was coming off a decade of explosive growth, built on the foundation of the Showtime Lakers and the Larry Bird-led Celtics. And it had once again struck gold with three-time champion and cultural icon Michael Jordan. But in an instant, that was gone. Jordan was retiring, and the NBA was left wondering what was next, because there wasn't a clear successor to Jordan who was ready to become the face of the league. Arguably, the biggest brand the league had was the lean, mean, defensive-minded New York Knicks led by Patrick Ewing. And while some fans look back on the 90s as the good old days, at the time some fans loved the physicality while others found it unwatchable. NBA Vice President Brian McIntyre compared the style of play to Ohio State football. 3 yards and a cloud of dust, it doesn't do much for the average fan. The real problem was that scoring was declining by 5% from the year before, and the NBA Finals viewership was down 35%. The NBA was so concerned with this low scoring that in 1994 they actually moved the three-point line a foot closer to try and boost the offense. And while the NBA was in the middle of scrambling to try and redefine itself, the NHL was perfectly positioned to capitalize off the moment. The league had just hired its first commissioner in Gary Bettman, who had experience in the NBA and was this young, energetic innovator who was going to give the league its fresh coat of paint. And during that 1994 season, the New York Rangers were on this historic run to break a 54-year Stanley Cup drought. After an electric series with the Devils where Captain Mark Messier guaranteed a Game 6 win in New Jersey and followed it up with a hat trick, the Rangers went on to win Game 7 of the Stanley Cup in Madison Square Garden against the Vancouver Canucks. It went down as one of the most memorable Stanley Cups ever and captured the attention of casual sports fans everywhere. After decades of being overshadowed by other major sports leagues, the NHL was suddenly hot and the NBA was not. But it didn't last. The very next year, the NHL lost half of its season due to collective bargaining disputes. And over the next 2 decades, Bettman's tenure with the NHL would be plagued with these costly lockouts, poor TV deals, and failed expansion attempts into non-traditional markets. The league lost an entire season in the 2004-2005 season and completely squandered all momentum that had been built up. Meanwhile, the NBA bounced back fast. Jordan eventually realized baseball just wasn't for him and came back to win 3 more championships, then seamlessly handed the league off to the Kobe and Shaq-led Lakers. And just a few short years later, LeBron James took the league to a whole new level. And the NBA's cultural influence just dominated sports, and the NHL never stood a chance. But then something happened that no one saw coming: a global pandemic.
NBA shocking the sports world last night.
The NBA is suspending the season.
The coronavirus forces the NBA to send fans home.
The 2020 season was temporarily shut down, but eventually continued in the bubble. It closed off Disney campus where games were played in front of digital fans. And while it was an interesting idea, and I respect the NBA for trying to just finish the season, it delivered less than stellar results. Even though LeBron James and the Lakers were eventually crowned champions, it was the least watched NBA Finals in 50 years, which most sports leagues at the time were dealing with declining viewership, but that didn't stop the online discourse from from igniting. Is the NBA a dying league? Are the glory days behind it? Is the product unwatchable? Foul baiting, too many threes, not enough defense, the players don't care, and the All-Star games are stale. It's been a simmering debate slowly building up over these past few years until this year's All-Star break seems to have blown the lid right off. And again, this isn't just an NBA thing. Every league is trying to figure out how to get fans and players to care about a largely meaningless game in the middle of the season. But in past years, you would get some iconic pictures or videos from the slam dunk contest. The three-point contest is mildly entertaining. And if you endure through the first 3 quarters of the actual All-Star game, you were typically rewarded with some effort in the fourth. Maybe a compelling one-on-one matchup between a seasoned vet and a young and up-and-coming star. But this year, we really didn't get any of that. The fact that Mac McClung and Stephon Castle were the headliners of the dunk contest really tells you all you need to know about the state of the game. You have LeBron James in street clothes for the team pictures, Draymond just trashing the entire event on the TNT broadcast, and all of this during a season where the biggest headlines that got people talking about the NBA was when Luka got traded to the Lakers. I mean, this event is supposed to be the NBA taking center stage on TVs across the country now that the NFL season is wrapped up. Instead, we got players that just largely don't care playing for 40 minutes sandwiched in between 2.5 hours of commercials and commentary. And Commissioner Adam Silver has done his best to make things more interesting, but no amount of gimmicky tournaments or petty cash prizes is going to address the heart of the problem. The players simply don't care. And the fans are begging for some kind of effort, buy-in, or more than anything, just pride for the game.
I got a question for the NBA players. What the hell are you playing for?
That's one of the problems we got. These idiots won't play in the All-Star game. We've given them so much, they don't have no respect for the history.
You have to play it with passion. You have to be willing to fight. That's what fans are investing in. There's a big difference between what the NHL's doing with those events and what the NBA is doing.
This was especially bad. I just want to see basketball.
But just when all seemed lost and that All-Star weekend would become a thing of the past, a star was born. The Four Nations face-off. In February of 2024, Gary Bettman and the NHL announced that instead of an All-Star game, they would be putting on a 4-team best-on-best tournament between 2 historic rivalries, US and Canada, Finland and Sweden. It was pitched as sort of an appetizer for the 2026 Olympics, and for the first time since 2016, we were going to see international hockey competition with each country's best players on the roster. And although it was met with some initial skepticism, it was an instant hit.
The toes with the game is gone! LeBron Larkin scores! Dylan Larkin, and Team USA has the lead.
And for the mixed bag that Gary Bettman has been for the NHL over the past 30 years, this might have been his greatest stroke of genius. The ratings were through the roof. The final between US and Canada was one of the most watched hockey games ever. Diehards and casuals alike were captivated. And it immediately solved every problem with All-Star weekends leading up to this point. The league's best players were showcased to the world playing with max effort and max pride. And sprinkle in some international politics for good measure. All of a sudden, once again, hockey is hot and the NBA is not. But can the NHL capitalize this time, or is history bound to repeat itself? Now, I'm not saying that hockey is ever going to overtake basketball in terms of popularity. I think the barrier to entry for hockey is something that will forever hold it back. But as far as growth of the league, I think the NHL can continue to ride this wave. I mean, when you look at the 2 leagues, the way people talk about them is completely opposite. The NBA discourse online is constantly talking about how unwatchable the product is, how load management and team loyalty is ruining the game, too much offense, not enough defense, whatever. And while there are discussions to be had, I mean, back in the 90s, everyone was complaining about too much defense and not enough scoring, so all of those debates I sort of take with a grain of salt. On the flip side, it seems like the NHL has never been healthier. The game is as fast and athletic as it's ever been. The players are as skilled as they've ever been. And while the game of basketball has been exploding internationally, hockey has been growing domestically with players from the US and Canada in the NHL has started to even out. If Bettman and the NHL play their cards right, I think there's tons of untapped potential. Only time will tell, and in the meantime, Adam Silver better be taking notes because we just saw the NHL turn their All-Star weekend into a must-watch national event. The NBA has to respond. The ball is in their court. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. For anyone still watching the video at this point, I just want to say thank you. The reception of that last video that I put out the other week was amazing. I did not see that coming. The amount of views, the amount of likes, the comments, so much of them being so supportive. Thank you so much. I really want to put out the highest quality videos that are entertaining, that are educational, and that are just interesting to watch. So let me know what you guys are into. I know I kind of jump around from topic to topic on this channel. Usually I just make a video on whatever I find interesting at the time. But yeah, more than anything, just thank you so much. It's been so surreal to see the growth over this past week. I hope to just keep making the videos better and better. So yeah, all I can say is thanks, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.